The crew of a small fishing vessel out at sea cross a life-changing event. Massive monoliths rising from the ocean. Enticed by the glowing lights, they get too close, trapping themselves in a nightmare. Hello, today I will be going over Second Horizon, a short two-part series from roughly within the last 6 months. And simply put, it's the story of these two monolithic structures they refer to as obelisks that have started rising from the ocean, and this poor crew of a fishing vessel who is put into quarantine by the US government. We open with a classified document from the US Navy. The location and reporting agent are redacted, but we see the subject is referred to as an obelisk, most likely the giant structures rising from the ocean, and we get a date, 5/10/1973, and it also seems that we are viewing is footage confiscated from some commercial vessel by the US Coast Guard. It seems normal at first with a few shots of the crew working. It's until 6:28 we hear the shock sounds of the crew as the camera pans over to the first of the two obelisks towering over the ship. We get some more info seeing that the Coast Guard responded to a distress signal from the Lady Babylon, the fishing vessel, and they administered medical intervention. What could they need medical intervention for? Something obelisk related, perhaps? We see the Coast Guard roll up in full force, approaching the Lady Babylon. Getting some more info on the two obelisks, we see that they are sticking up roughly 2,200 feet above the ocean and around 6,500 feet apart from each other. And not only that, but they ascend at about a rate of 2 feet an hour, which seems quite fast to me. As expected, they have no idea what it is or where it came from. But for some reason, we are warned that touching an obelisk is extremely dangerous, but not told quite why.
My God. What happened to him? Sir?
He touched it.
Having boarded the Lady Babylon, the medical team is kitted out in hazmat suits, sanitizing before heading down below. We can hear the sounds of someone groaning in agony. Moving in closer, we see a member of the fishing crew, writhing on a table, holding his hand up. It's hard to make out from his footage, but it seems like his hand's either been mutated, or it's just like it's had all the skin and flesh stripped right off the bone. Turning to another crew member, we get some insight on why. We are told he touched it, enticed by those glowing lights. He wanted to get a better look, and this is what resulted. Was this just stupidity, or do the lights have some sort of hypnotic effect? It's not long before we get to see those very lights. It also seems to give off some sort of electronic interference at the same time, as the camera loses quality and we hear a buzzing sound before cutting out entirely. Here we hear who is presumably the redacted reporting agent introducing himself before interviewing the captain of the Lady Babylon. Before he goes down, we can hear what sounds like mining or rocks hitting each other, some sort of experiment at the obelisk. The interview is very short as the captain goes over the events of them finding the obelisk before seeing the lights, and then that crew member getting enticed in touching it. He does go a bit more into detail on what happens. He says the crew member only touched it for around a second before dropping like a bird. Suddenly, we see the other crew member being held in some sort of quarantine. He writhes in pain as they inject him with something. He quickly goes quiet afterwards, and they begin to remove his arm, it seems. Maybe trying to save him, or do they just want the arm for research? I'm not really convinced their goal was ever to help, to be honest. The interview reaches its end with Agent Redacted informing the captain that his crew would be under quarantine. The episode ending right as the captain asks, how long? Though I would presume that answer is indefinite. So, episode 1. Great setup, good intrigue with the obelisks and, the government being shady as fuck as usual. If I had to guess, they're gonna try and cover this whole thing up somehow. And, that leaves the fate of the fishing crew in not so trustworthy hands. I think it's hard to determine anything about the obelisks yet, whether they're like an ancient structure or some organic being rising from the ocean. I kind of lean on the side of it being a life form of some sort. Just the way it uses the lights, it feels intentional, like it's a lure to draw people in, and that whatever it did to that crewmate's hand could be a feeding of some sort, perhaps. But who knows? We open with a shot of the obelisk before getting another confidential-seeming document, this time outlining a project codenamed Obelisk. This particular piece pertaining to a study on how fluid interacts with a shard of the obelisk, noting it was mined with a diamond tip as steel wouldn't work. Possibly the sound we heard from the previous episode. We see the shard interacts with seawater by completely absorbing it, as well as disintegrating any bacteria present in the water, or any other organic matter. This is probably something similar, or maybe exactly what happened to the crewman's hand. The researcher says that this might be a selective or programmed interaction that the shard has.
It's been giving us the light show for the last 3 nights. The Rock likes to perform. Is it on? Good. It's 13th of May, 1973. We are conducting experiment beta to illustrate the effect of the structure on matter. Observe. Inorganic matter? No effect. Organic matter.
Soon here, we get another much more cruel experiment showing the obelisk's effect on organic matter, dumping a poor rat onto the obelisk. We see it fully disintegrate until bones are all that remain, the researcher noting that this is no known force, radiation, or any interaction that they can figure out. He also mentions the obelisks glowing the past 3 nights, saying they like to put on a show. Ending the experiment, they leave the obelisk, noticing a member of the Lady Babylon filming them, as we seem to cut to some footage recorded by the Lady Babylon. What a coincidence. We see the researchers try and pressure the fisherman into giving them the camera, but he stands his ground and they leave him for now at least. Some of the crew speculate on when they might be able to leave, and then they move on to speculating on the other crewmen who touched the obelisk, one of them implying that the Coast Guard might not even be trying to patch him up at all, and I'm inclined to agree. We catch up with the entire crew down below, the captain informing everyone of Marlowe's death, Marlowe being the crewman who touched the obelisk, and also of their quarantine. They begin resigning themselves to their situation before one of the crew has an idea to sort of sneak a message past the Coast Guard, which the captain vehemently denies. The crew begins infighting before being cut off by a loud horn of some sort.
Here, and trust the Coast Guard knows what's best.
Reaching the deck as a submarine surfaces, they realize they aren't just dealing with the Coast Guard anymore, as episode 2 comes to an end. Another great episode. Got some clues on the obelisk in this one, with those research documents, and some insight on the fishing crew. With the obelisk, we got both it absorbing water and just disintegrating all organic matter, it seems, just full stop. And in the case of the fishing crew, we see them in a few various different emotional states, but generally being very on edge at their circumstances, which is understandable. Even with us getting some infighting at the end there. Like the first episode, it was short, but it did what it needed to do. So, that's it for now. Second Horizon. For now being, hopefully, I don't actually know if the series is going to continue. I hope it does, obviously. As for what we do have, the stuff with the crew and the Coast Guard / US government is pretty simple. You know, fishing crew sees one of these obelisks, and the lights entice one of these members, Carlo, to touch the obelisk. The obelisk, in response, disintegrating most of his hand, seemingly, would have got the rest of him had he not, dropped contact, I presume. And the government feels obviously like they would like to cover this up, as well as do whatever research they can into the obelisks, seeming to maybe kill one of the crewmen in pursuit of that. Them injecting and then cutting off Marlowe's arm was certainly interesting. And as for the obelisk, despite its ultra hard exterior, I still think it is some sort of living being, or once living being. The lights feel too close to a lure of some sort to me. And the disintegration could either be, just a way for it to feed, or just some sort of automatic, defense. I'm not entirely sure what the ascension could be about. It could just be absorbing the seawater to grow, because we know it does constantly absorb the seawater, based on the shard at least. Either way, my best guess as of episode 2 is that both the obelisks are part of some sort of ancient being that is either dead or sleeping. Possibly some sort of eldritch-ish being. It does feel similar to that, but maybe not. But for whatever reason, it is now stirring, waking up perhaps. Or if it is dead, this is just sort of its body acting on its own. Part of the thing with it feeling Lovecraftian is they like to do the whole beyond human comprehension type thing. So it does make it very hard to predict in that way. But that's sort of where I'm at right now, is that it's some sort of slumbering or dead being beneath the ocean that is just now stirring, and is probably gonna stir even more with all the experiments and stuff being done to it. For now, I can only hope we get some more to hopefully, piece things together. But for now, that's all I got. Okay, hello. Here at the end again. I know this was a shorter one than the other two, but for some reason I was still doing the whole Friday deadline thing, but I'm starting to feel more and more iffy on that as it goes, especially as it was just a very hectic week life and work-wise. Did not have a whole lot of time, so a short little bite-sized one like this was a lot easier to do while having other stuff on the back burner, so to speak. It also fitting the criteria of being somewhat recent, and I like it. I also don't know if it's gonna continue. I think it's been around 5 months, which I mean, I know things take time, but you just never know with these series sometimes whether it's ongoing or dead. So I was like, you know what, why not just get it in there? And then if it continues, hey, I could update it one day. So it's sort of a win-win. But yeah, as usual, I'll obviously have all their stuff in the description. Second Horizon being the series, and Renaissance VFX being the channel. But yeah, as usual, if I missed anything, or, you have any other series you want me to cover, let me know. But